Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Good morning, Dr. Ridgway.
Morning. How are you today?
Oh, flying high, as you can hear. Here it is, 5 o'clock in the morning. I've got my little doggie with me. She's looking at me. I have this wonderful Maltese dog that I just adore.
That's great.
I also will tell you that my family who lives in Miami, my son, his wife, and their triplet children, who are 9, found a little calico cat out in the backyard. Now, they have a beautiful white indoor cat, but this is a little calico cat that came to the door, and, of course, no one was allowed to touch it. It was wild, as far as they knew. Uh-huh. But I guess as things went on, that's why I'm laughing, because you just did this on the calico cat in our article in Boomer Times, but so it kept coming to the door, and they did feed it. And before you knew it, it got a little bigger, and it became pregnant. And now there are 3 babies and the mother. And somehow they've allowed the children to pet it. So it's becoming tame. They're not going to keep it, but they have a friend who's a vet. He's going to come over, and he's going to, I guess, inoculate them, spay them, and then they're going to go to a mall or something and give away the kittens.
Oh, that's nice.
I thought you'd like that story. I was saving that for you.
Yeah.
And I have a picture of them. They're so cute. And yeah, I was wondering about what do feral cats do when it rains?
Well, I don't know. They have a way to hide, that's for darn sure. I'm not sure exactly what they do or how they do it, but they survive normally very well. And a lot of people feed feral cats. I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent, but they do. And we've spayed feral cats in the shelter for years and years and years and years and years and years. I don't think that program is very effective. But, well, you spay 100 cats,
yeah, and
for every 100 that you spayed, there was probably 300 born. So there's no way. I've read because I know that the spay release program is not effective. I mean, it makes people who love cats feel good that they're doing something, but as far as the program is concerned, it's not effective. And so I've read into many things. I've read about one city that set, several acres aside for nothing but cats, and after many years, they abandoned that. I read about another community that euthanized all the cats, and they finally decided that wasn't effective, so they abandoned that. And I know that the spay-release program is not effective, but we still do it. And what I think on this problem, I don't know if it's a problem or a challenge. Anyway, I think what we're doing is if you think of a great big iceberg, we're at the top of the iceberg dealing with the tip. And until we find a way, whatever that way is, to work from the base of the iceberg up, instead of trying to work from the top down, we're going to be ineffective. Now, I don't know what the issue were. I know the state of Kansas had a program to control coyotes. And they, for over 100 years, had a program, and finally they abandoned it, and they don't have any program anymore. It was just ineffective. It's a real issue. I don't have a solution to that problem.
So I have a question. Do cats just like sex?
That's true. I assume that's true because they certainly multiply faster than you can do anything about them.
Right. I mean,
if you have a average litter, let's say 8 to 10 dogs or cats, and sometimes I've seen dogs up to 15 in a litter, and you spayed one, and they just had 10. You're fighting a losing battle. Are you with me?
Yep, I am. I hear you.
And the problem is the program is not effective. It makes the people who bring the cats in to have them spayed, you feel like they're really doing something, and maybe they are. I'm not debating that part. But overall, as a program, to be effective for what the purpose of the program is, it's a complete failure.
But remember, if I'm thinking about what you said, and that's too bad, but if you didn't spay them, imagine what would happen. We'd be eating cat food. We'd be eating the cats.
I'm not sure what would happen. My father was a deputy sheriff for years and years and years. And before that, he was a policeman on the local police department. And they would get what they called a 10D, which was a dog call. And because of the things that happened in the world, they have a bunch of Vietnamese who were brought into the city to work at a plant that's outside of the city. And after the Vietnamese moved in, you know what? There was never another dog call.
Really?
Yeah, because the Vietnamese ate the dogs.
Oh, yeah. That's the way it is, isn't it?
We forget about different cultures. In Vietnam, you can go out into their markets and they have these dogs all skinned and everything hanging on a hook, and you can buy them like you might think of pork or beef, something like that. So it just depends upon the culture, what foods you like. So when you move to a new country, there's a thing called culture shock.
I would say that's very true.
That.
Oh,
being in the Army,
it's too early in the morning to hear this. Boy, I never thought. I knew that I know they have horse meat, and I guess I don't even know what horses are killed, just in general.
No, I think there's a lot of I'm going to call them call horses. I don't know them, and even people who buy horses for pets, the majority of them buy them for a little bit, and then they put them out in this pen, and nobody does anything with them. And the next thing they knew, 3 or 4 years have gone by, and I know of one person who has started an equine or a horse rescue because of that problem. So it's an issue, what you think you want to do and then what you actually do. And I know of people who hoard dogs, for example. They have 110 or 120 or 200 dogs that they're keeping, and their heart is in the right position, but their finances can't keep up with it. And so the other thing is they do it themselves, and after a period of time they get tired of feeding them and taking care of them, and so they stop feeding them, and they don't have the money to afford to buy the food. They can't build the cages, and the filth builds up. It's just a real mess. If the people who hoard would realize that they've got a limit, then they probably would be okay. But they don't think that way. They want to save the world, want to be a do-goody, and the problem is they end up being a very, very bad do-bad,
Yeah.
It's a real problem. And the same thing happens with cats. I can tell you goofy stories about hoarding of cats, too. It's a real problem.
Yeah, that's true. We've seen that on television where they find someone and they must have 20, 30 cats living in their house. And I guess they start out with a few of them. They feed them and they get some more. And they are adorable. When you see a little kitten, there's nothing cuter. But then they get crazy. It's just something you have. Just like, actually, my son has put his foot down. He said, we're not having any cats in the house. We have one, and that's it. And we're giving them away. And, of course, everybody's crying because now they've become so much a part of it. But they've discussed it with him and said, no, we're not having more cats. There are plenty of people who want a little kitten, and they're going to go to the park and give the kittens away, which is smart.
Yeah, if they can find somebody to give them to.
Oh, they will. They will. It's funny. There's something about a little kitten that's hard to say no. I would have taken one if I weren't allergic to cats. So,
yeah.
But they're very cute. Well, I want to ask you some other questions about food. It seems that I walk around this park, and a lot of people have dogs, and one of the major conversations, what should we be feeding our dogs?
That's a very good question. and there's an awful lot of foods to be that are available to people when you go to like Petco, PetSmart,
right,
grocery stores, all kinds of foods, and you kind of think that the most expensive food might be the best, but it turns out that's not true. Years ago, there was a fellow that actually, at the time, they owned Science Diet, and he ran a study. This was the junior. He ran a study, and he found that Gaines, Purina, and Kennel Ration, tended to cheat less. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
Less than the other manufacturers. So he recommended those doses. And he fed those, fed that. What we had then was a food, I won't say the company name. It was feeding an all-meat diet. And an all-meat diet causes the calcium-phosphorus ratio to become unbalanced greatly. And it doesn't make any difference if it's chicken or beef or whatever. It's an all-meat diet. This occurs. And the blood that we have in them, or the animals have in them, maintains a normal calcium level. And if they don't get calcium from somewhere, they have to use it for what's stored in their body. And where is it stored? In the bones. So it starts absorbing the bones, and the bones become paper thin, and then they start having broken bones, and people don't understand why. Then they also get a diarrhea, and they get dandruff, and then an all-meat diet can kill. What Mark M. Morris Jr. found was that in 3 months, on a 100% meat diet, you can kill a dog.
Wow, this is an important conversation because as of about 2 months or more, my dog was a little finicky. I went and bought the raw food diet that you get in the freezer at the Petco's, and she gobbled it up, and she loved it so much, and now she really doesn't like it, and I have to add egg and other kinds of things. So you just made me decide that I guess I'm going to get her off the raw meat diet. Well,
I've written that up. I can't remember which one of the books I put that in there and explained this, but it's a killer.
Okay.
And I remember when I was in practice, this lady brought in this little, I'm going to call it a chihuahua. I don't remember what it was. And they were going to clean its teeth. And there had a scale, and they put a scaler on it and pulled down on it, and it broke the jaw. We took a radiograph of the dog, and that radiograph of the bone was about the thickness of a piece of paper. And so there's no way you can fix it, because if you tried to fix it, it would just make it worse. It's so thin that's what happens. And so normally, what happens is that the calcium and phosphorus ratio is like 1 to 1.2. But if you use an all-meat diet, the calcium-phosphorus ratio is like 1 to 15. Or depending on the meat, it can be as high as 20. And so the poor animal, people think that, boy, he's really gobbling it down. They think that's great. The problem is they're killing their dog, and they don't even realize, or pet, or cat, and don't even realize what's happening.
This is the most important conversation. I'm sitting here with my mouth open. So I want to know, should I go to the Science Diet? Is that a good...
I hate to say this, but Science Diet's my favorite. And here's the reason I like Science Diet. Number one, it's the nutrition is very balanced. And in every bite, they've scientifically worked this out. Every bite, they get all the vitamins and all that nutrition that they need. And in these others, I'm not going to name any, I'm not targeting any ration. The expensive ones, you get it, but maybe you have to eat a bowl to get all the nutrition.
Huh. Well, now,
so it's not in all the bites. So I personally prefer science diet. That doesn't mean that it's the only good diet that's on the market, because of Purina, and a lot of them they spend a lot of time researching and spending a lot of money, and so they have some good things too. And what I find is that it depends on what your pet's going to eat, because you can buy. We tried this. We tried to change the ration, and won't eat it. So you have to play with them to get them to eat it. And the way you do that is you feed mostly the ration that you've been feeding, and you add a little bit of the ration that you want to feed, and you just keep doing that, and then increase it slowly. If you get in a hurry, you're going to defeat your purpose. So you have to do it very, very slowly. And if you do that, then you'll eventually be feeding more of the ration that you want and less of the ration that you don't want. But you got to take it over, say, maybe 2 months and increasing it, because we have a cat that's a little bit overweight. So we want to put it on a ration that he is able to eat what he wants, but it doesn't have the caloric content, so they lose weight. And I've seen this work real well in dogs. And so we're very, very slowly, we're mixing the two rations and very slowly increasing the more diet ration. But if you just try to feed the diet ration right away, they won't eat it. They just walk off and leave it.
It's kind of funny you should say this, because when she hasn't been wanting now the food that she used to gobble up, the raw food, I went to one of the foods, one of the pedigree, whatever it's called, and if I put a tablespoon or something, mix it around, she gobbles it up.
Yeah.
So she must know what she needs. Well, I definitely, this morning, I'm going to start just what you said. I'm going to make sure that she has I'll go buy, science. With science diet, you can only buy at the vet too, I believe, can't you? I'll have to go to the vet to buy it? I forget.
No, you don't.
No, okay. Well,
you can find it in the pet stores.
I can.
I don't know about, I haven't been paying attention in the grocery stores. But there's some of the science diets that are prescription. And those, are normally for some disease thing like liver, kidney, intestinal problems, diarrhea, what have you. But there are other rations that you can get that are not prescription. Prescriptions cost a little bit more than, and science diet is kind of the problem is comparing prices between now and 1970 is a big, big difference.
You can imagine what the raw food costs. It's very expensive, and I've been buying it, but it's really expensive. I'll tell you one thing I did do, though. I have a great vitamin company called Invite Health here in South Florida. It's really was founded by a pharmacist, and they just make great products. They have one vitamin for dogs. One bottle that I buy, it has everything in it, and she does eat those, and I'm happy. I've been giving that to her.
Yeah. Well, I can give you another example, a case. I was visiting a veterinarian when a lady who came in and had a broken bone, and he showed me the radiographs, and the first thing I said, I'm like, gosh, the cortex of the bone is very thin. It wasn't real thin, but it was thin enough that I recognized it just boom, just as I looked at it. So I talked to the lady, and she'd been feeding an all-meat diet, but she had been adding green beans to it. And so I don't know what the deal is, all this food. They say there's no grains in the food. That's just a marketing ploy, actually. That has nothing to do with the quality of the food. And you pay a premium price for it. And science diet, the only reason they have any that like that is because these others were competing, and people seem to think that they're better than the others, so they started manufacturing some without it in there anyway. But then you have to look at the ingredients and you read it, and you got to ask, my gosh, what's their definition of grains? Are peas a grain?
Oh, they're not, though.
Well,
They're a carbohydrate, but they're not. Well, see, I do that also. I take vegetables and give her some green beans and just put them in. She loves that if you mix it in with her food.
Well, see, the Almighty diet, it used to come in a can, and what Morris did was he studied this, like I was telling you, and he found if you put a hard boiled egg and a little bit of corn oil on the ration, that the hair coat just shine like crazy. And what he didn't tell us when he was telling us that, is if you put too much of that corn oil on it, it can cause loose stools or diarrhea. And so the egg, the cooked egg, is awesome for the dog. It's a foreign body protein. It works very well. And then the oil added to the ration. And so he said to feed Gaines Purina a kennel ration and add an egg. And people would tell me, well, I can't afford an egg every day. I said, well, do it as often as you can. And then add a tablespoon of corn oil. And I found that depending on the dog, that can cause diarrhea. So you need to not stop it, but cut way back on it. Maybe give a teaspoon or whatever it takes to not have a problem. Are you with me?
Yeah. Dr. Ridgway, I have a big smile on my face. Unfortunately, this is in television. Snowy adores eggs. And one of her treats, I hard-boiled eggs, and I didn't want her to have too much of the fat, so I take the white of the egg and give it to her. That's the best treat in the world. And if I sprinkle some egg yolk on her food, she adores it. So you're saying I could literally give her that egg every day, and it's good for her.
Yeah, if it's not raw.
No, it's not raw. And we're running out of time. And, oh, my heavens, this has been, you and I didn't even know what we were going to talk about, but I feel so good about this conversation. I love this dog, and I am going to get her off the raw food. I may give her 3 little parts. I have so much of it, I'm just going to give her 3 little pieces, but I'm going to start giving her other stuff. I really do thank you for this conversation.
No problem. Hey, just real quickly, raw eggs have a product in it called Avidin. Avidin ties up biotin. Biotin ties up B vitamins. I've never seen this occur in a dog, and I've read that some people don't believe it at all because they don't get enough raw eggs. But the bottom line is, don't feed raw eggs.
Oh, I'm not doing that. It's a hard-boiled egg. That's what she loves, and that's what's her treat. And I'm so happy to talk to you, and I hope you have a very nice weekend. And thank you so much for the great articles. I love this last one you just sent in. Oh, my heavens, it's so good, everything you've been doing. Thanks again, Dr. Ridgway. I should tell everybody, be sure to buy his book. His book's great. It's called The Truth About Dog and Cat Treatments and Anomalies, and it's available at Amazon.com. Just go to Dr. Robert Ridgway, Ridgway. Thank you, Dr. Ridgway.
You're welcome.